Welcome to Real Lives Touched by Addiction podcast with your hosts, Jen McCutcheon, Luke Loughlin, Lainey Love, and Sandra Murray. This podcast exists to bring truth, compassion, and real solutions to conversations around addiction that family, communities, and systems have avoided for far too long. Addiction isn't just an individual struggle. It's a family, community, and generational issue. And too many are navigating it in silence, feeling overwhelmed and alone. Through real stories, lived experience, trauma-informed insight, and evidence-based frameworks, we're exploring the most misunderstood truths about addiction and family healing. And you're invited to join us. Listen, reflect, and take a small but powerful step towards real change. So let us begin. Welcome to Real Lives Touched by Addiction. We are super excited today to have a very special guest, Marsha Vanwynsberghe. I had the pleasure of meeting Marsha, a divine connection, really, about the unspoken bond that so many families have that are touched by addiction. Loving a child or loved one, it just connects you on a level that nobody else can really, truly understand. So we're really excited. Marsha is an NLP coach, speaker, and 7 times author, but she has also written a book, When She Stopped Asking Why, sharing her journey about parenting a teen impacted by substance abuse. So such a powerful example you are, Marsha, of like what's possible when we reclaim our personal power and rewire our subconscious mind. So, we're so excited to be here. She's also got a podcast, Own Your Own Choices and Own Your Life, having massive impact through her coaching, her masterminds, and her podcast. So we are just so excited to have you with us today. Welcome, welcome, welcome. And we can't wait for you to share your real story, your real life touched by addiction, and all that it brings with it.
Thank you for having me. Thank you for the intro, Jen. Thank you for having me. Thank you for being part of this. It takes, there's also a beautiful piece of solidarity of all different people coming together to talk about something that affects so many people that nobody wants to talk about. So this is ideal. Thank you so much for having me.
We're so excited. So excited to have you. And it's true. I mean, unspoken is actually one of your offerings, I believe. Outspoken, sorry.
It's okay. No. It's outspoken.
Outspoken.
Yes.
Which
Yes.
is beautiful because it's like this is the isolation and the silence for everybody impacted by addiction. And it's being able to raise voice, to have a voice, to share your voice, because every story matters. Everybody that I'm looking at here right now today, your story matters, our message matters, and every one of our listeners who are tuning in because somehow their life has been touched by addiction, your story matters, your life matters. So we would love to hear your story. Where would you like to begin to share your journey with us and our listeners?
Well, there's so many places that I could really start. I do want to say, when we started to experience this, our kids were young. And it was not something that, like I said, none of the bingo card was not what we thought, wasn't what you expected, kind of came out of left field. And it just continued to grow. It was never a phase. It showed signs from the very beginning that it was like, this is not a phase. And everywhere we went to ask for help, it was very much that, oh, it's a phase, all kids. I'm like, no, this is different. I knew it was. And I probably spent a couple of years trying to find a solution. I'm the person who turns over every rock trying to find it. While at the same time, I still would go to work, put my face on to be, everything is fine. I'm fine. I've got it. It's fine. And I recognize now I know so much more about our patterns and our subconscious mind, understanding that, that was not a healthy response at all, but that's the response that I knew. And there was one point where I was feeling that it wasn't going to be me that was going to make a difference with our kids because I tried everything possible. I'd gone to the counseling, gone to the parent groups, done all the things that I could learn to do, great connections with the schools. I was very upfront and honest with what was happening. I was not hiding anything there. And I do remember vividly taking a checklist to our counselor and having him look at it and say, yes, you did everything. You read, good job. Like almost like that, there's the star. You checked everything off. And I'm like, but you don't get it. We still have all of the problems. Like none of it's working. I don't
Yeah.
understand. Like, and it's such a weird feeling, right? As a parent, it's like, would
Mhm.
you like it's nothing is working. And it was a moment of, but it's not yours to solve anymore. And I remember thinking, how can that be? Like they're minors. I don't even understand this. So I kept feeling like maybe someone else will cross their paths. Like maybe someone else will cross their path, someone else will share their story, something else will happen. I've always been the person who was inspired by, the hero journey story, the sports story. Like all of those were my go-to ones to watch. And then I had one moment where I remember thinking, well, why are you expecting somebody to show up and share the story if you're not willing to share the story? And that was just this moment of, I can't ask others to do something. I've always said that. I can't ask others to do something I'm not willing to do. And so I spoke on a couple of very small stages. And I remember even at the time, even my husband saying, what are you doing? Are you sure about this? And remember, like we were in the story. This was not the space of it was all done. And I said, no, I know I need to do this. And I started. And I remember him coming the first time and he's like, okay, I understand it now. I know what you're saying. And more people started to reach out and connect. And then I shared my story on bigger stages and wrote a couple of collaborative chapters. And then it was like, okay, I have the calling to share it in a book. And I would say be very mindful when you have a big idea who you share that with, because pretty much most of the world crapped on it. You're like, that's nuts. You can't do that. And I'm so glad I didn't listen. I don't know how else to explain it, except it was like I had a feeling this was something I was supposed to do. And I did. And I put that book out into the world. And I remember even when I came up with the name, I had a self-publisher who was helping me, and she's like, you can't name it. No one's going to understand when she stopped asking why. And I'm like, everyone is going to understand when she stopped asking why. And I wanted it to be a story that could support people through a difficult change in life. And that was really, when things happen that are outside of your control, what do you do? And then it just continued to grow from there. And, it's led into all of the work that I get to do today. So I know it's so difficult when we walk through hard times and hard challenges. And I also know that it's changed me, it's shaped me, it's allowed me to do the work that I do today. And for that, I couldn't imagine not doing what I get to do today.
So beautiful. So beautifully said. And I relate to so much of what you said. And also like when you get I've had feedback like that, nobody's gonna get that. I'm like, everybody that is meant to get it is going to get it
Yes,
because
they
you
are.
don't get it. It's
No,
okay.
no.
And that's the power of that unspoken. There's just this bond and this understanding because you've lived it, you've experienced it,
Yeah.
and those pivotal moments, those moments where something switches, where you're like, wait a minute. It's like
Hmm.
ding, the light bulb goes off. I had that moment too where I was like, wow, like all of the things that I've experienced and all the moments that I was believing I was victim to this thing called addiction, I was like, I've been the common denominator in all of those experiences. And it was,
That's exactly, sorry, what living at cause is. Like living at cause is radical responsibility and ownership. And that's for everyone, right? Not just, and the first time I heard that, I'm like, I didn't do anything wrong. I don't understand. Like, I'm just being very real with you. That was my first
yeah,
response. And then the more I started to learn, I'm like, oh, we're all part of the puzzle. Okay, so what can I do differently?
yes,
Yeah.
yes. And that's where I believe families and communities are the cornerstone. They're the missing piece of the
Mhm.
puzzle to really breaking the generational cycles and the patterns. And it starts with each individual. It starts, and we can't force anybody into recovery. We can only take ownership of our own lives and start by healing ourselves, breaking our own patterns, and therefore showing up differently in all parts of our lives in every relationship. And that's where it starts to have impact. Doesn't mean your family member, your loved one's going to find their sobriety or recovery, but what it means is you're no longer contributing to those patterns and cycles that are creating the suffering that everybody's
Mhm.
enduring.
Completely agree. Completely.
And for those that don't understand, they are blessed. if
Yeah,
they
very
haven't
well said.
experienced anything.
Yes,
So
Y-
lucky
absolutely.
you.
That's a great way to say it. I used to say when people would, I mean, it's always amazing how people love to give advice. And I mean, there were times where I said, I'm sorry, are you offering to come and stay at my house for a week so I can go sleep? Oh, you're not? I'm not interested. Like I would say, I'm not interested. I
Yes.
literally would be like, I'm not interested. And that could be immediate family.
Yes.
If you're not going to do something and it's just words,
Hmm.
not interested.
Mhm.
Love it.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Love it.
it's I just like quickly. I just want to jump in here. Marsha talked about your own family, inner family. I know with our experience, my mom and dad would get these suggestions from like my aunts and uncles, and God bless them.
Mm.
They didn't know, right? But
Right.
it would be these suggestions that they would say, well, no, like they should be doing this with them and doing that. And they really had no idea. My parents didn't get a playbook that said, hey, when Luke becomes an addict and an alcoholic, this is what you got to do, right? They tried their best and they have PTSD from it. They really do. And so when you said that, that just it hit home for me with a lot of people will give opinions on what to do when they're not living that experience.
Yeah, I appreciate that, and I appreciate what you're saying, and I just think it's I often use Brene Brown's quote, and this has always been kind of my benchmark of, she says if you're not in the arena getting, sorry if I can swear, your ass
Yeah.
kicked, then you're not like, I don't want your advice. I actually take it one step further because our arenas, like in Canada, you could put what, 50,000 people. Well, I don't need 50,000 people. The way I look at it is like if you're not on the floor with me, because there's lots of cheap seats everywhere, right? So I'm not interested in cheap seat advice if you're not willing to be on the floor walking. And that's how I look at it is like who's willing to walk on the floor with me. I have a family member who said it so beautifully, and she's like, not everyone has the capacity to hold it. And you have to know who you can share it with because if somebody becomes like very uncomfortable, judgmental, critical, and that's part of the process. I lived in all those energies.
Mm,
It's just they might not know how to hold it for you. And that doesn't mean anything about them. It just means you have to find your people who can help to hold it.
Yeah,
Mm,
beautifully
so
said.
true.
yeah.
Exactly. Yeah, I don't despair or discourage like the people that are with good intention,
Mhm.
like trying to show up and give advice. I've had to correct that in my own life because exactly that. It's like I think that I'm showing up in the way that I can because I have this information or I have this advice to give, and that's what I can give you in this moment.
Mhm.
And it is out of ignorance, whether that's a blessing or not, because most people have their own cross to carry. And maybe they're just not carrying this one, but I'm sure they have other things in their life that maybe I don't understand. But it is it is recognizing exactly what you're saying. It's like I'm not going to lean on those people, and it certainly is going to create discernment in my life, and I'm going to learn who I can count on and what that takes from that individual, what it is that they're made of, I guess is better wording. And it isn't meant to diminish, like when people are trying to show up and they just can't because that's not what they're meant to experience in this life. So yeah, how do we navigate that? I like the clear boundary that you have drawn, Marsha, and I think that's really like helpful and healthy. And then there's also an and. I don't know where the and fits personally because I live in the space where you're living of the boundaries.
Mhm.
But I know that the and also exists.
The and does exist. I don't think it's as black and white. I think it is, again, back to Luke, there's no playbook. There's no playbook for any of this. And I think that I like to believe that everybody's doing the best that they can with the information that they have. That is just a belief that I like to have that everyone's doing the best that they have with the information that they have in that moment. If they don't desire new information, I can't control that either. If
Yes.
some people do desire to learn new information, and I also think it comes down to, again, I always come back to like living at cause and radical responsibility. If I am resentful or frustrated because people are not being the support that I want or they're not helping in the way that I wish, I always stop and it's like, where can I be more of that to myself? Because, I didn't know how to navigate it most days. It's really unfair for me to be angry at extended like friends or family who didn't know how to support us when I didn't have a clue what to do most days. So we can choose to hold on to a lot of anger and resentment. It still doesn't help me or you or anyone else. So that's just how I choose to look at it.
And it's so beautiful because it's such self mastery, right? Like it really is just coming back to self, taking agency over yourself, choosing how you're going to respond, what your thoughts are, where you're placing blame, where you're dependent on other things to fix or make you feel better. Like it
Yeah.
really is comes back to self agency and that personal power. That
Mhm.
and again, it's a stepping stone. Some people are going to take one, two, three steps forward, five steps back. Some people won't take that step forward and continue to stay in that blame, not taking ownership. And that's part of the process that's really unfolding, I believe, in all of our lives in different ways and shapes and sizes.
I couldn't agree more. I really couldn't. And I think that as you're walking this, like some days I'm like, okay, I'm like, I've got this. I'm doing well. I'm speaking about it. And then all of a sudden another challenge will come up because we
Hmm.
still walk it with one of our kids. And it is like, I think I've got it. And it's like, okay, wow, life just comes in and goes whoop, right out at the knees. And it's like, okay, no, okay, we're starting over again. How do we do this? And when those moments happen, we talk a lot about judgment and fear of what others are saying. It's none of that matters. It's what are we saying to ourselves? What are we saying to ourselves? What are we thinking? How hard are we being? And sometimes I have to literally go, okay, today's the day. I just need to give myself some time and space because there's no rule book for this phase. Like we're just trying to figure it out. And I also, a phrase that I have openly shared with both my kids, but with my one son is like, I can't push and pull you through anything in life. I will walk beside you every step of the way, but it is not my job to push and pull you. The second I'm doing that, we're back into codependence. And that one took me a long time to change because, as it does for a lot of parents in this situation, and ours were really young, like really, really young. So it's like, how can I not feel like I would take responsibility? Because as a parent, as a mom, subconsciously, you kind of feel like you sign a contract that you are responsible for micromanaging every single thing that happens in the house, in their lives, so that it all gets fixed. That's what you think your job is as a mom. And if you're a mom listening to this, it is not. You didn't sign the contract. It's not real. It's up here. We're telling ourselves that. And that is when you start to realize and release that. It's like, that is not mine to carry. Because if I'm carrying everything that is everyone else's, then I have nothing left to carry what is mine.
Beautifully said. And I just want to say it just brings back memories because I used to say to my son, you need to put more energy into your life than me because
Oh,
I
yeah.
was also that mom at the beginning doing everything and trying to fix
Yeah.
it. And it wasn't until I learned this isn't working and really focusing on myself. And so, he'd be an active addiction. And as long as I kept keeping my boundaries and this is what I need, and I need
Hmm.
you to do more before I step in.
Hmm.
He got it. Eventually, he got it. And I wanted to ask you a question because,
Hmm.
first of all, I think you're amazing. Like everything I've learned, and I walk beside you because our stories are different yet very similar.
Yep.
And with addiction, we know that it can be fatal.
Hmm.
People touched by addiction, they carry those losses, and it forever changes them. Like
Of
myself.
course.
Have you had any painful experiences that reshaped you in ways that you didn't expect? And what would you say? This is what I have a challenge with. What would you say to someone who isn't ready yet to see themselves as anything other than broken by their loss? I know for me, I really worked hard to get where I am today.
Oh, you can tell. Yeah.
Um,
Impressive.
Yeah.
and there are many that are broken.
Mhm.
Mm, it's a challenging one. If you have any words.
It really is. I think that we have to be very mindful of the story that we're telling ourselves because it becomes an identity. And that identity is sometimes is something that it's easier for us to hold on to than the unknown. And I know when I first found my very first Facebook group with moms dealing with addiction, I was floored when there was 100,000 moms in there. And I was like, how is there, like, I'm thinking I'm just the only one because no one's talking. And again, this is like 15 years ago.
Mm.
And I'm finding this many. So we connected. There was four of us who were in this area in Ontario. And within the first few months, one of their sons passed. Within a few months, a second one passed. And all I could feel was that, and this is just my own, there's no judgment, but I knew staying in that Facebook group was going to hurt me more than it was to find something else to do for me, because the amount of like anger and shame and resentment, for obvious reasons, there again, no judgment, I knew that it was like a slippery slope, and I would not be able to create change in that space. So being mindful of the identity piece, it's whether you take it spiritual or not, we're all walking a journey on our own. And we do, I mean, they always say that your kids choose you and you choose your parents. And again, take it, leave it, whatever. But I think we're all walking our own journey, and we can only do what we can do. So I think that the tricky piece there is definitely identity. And when you ask me, was there a turning point for me specifically? Yes, there was a really key turning point where I was doing everything I could, thinking that if I could keep them here, they would be safe. And we almost lost both within probably 3 days. And
Oh.
that was a moment, and they were again minors. That was a moment where I just went, this isn't working. Like I don't know what the answer is, but this isn't working. I mean, my biggest, and I think there's a point that when, that came very close to one of my biggest fears. But that's when I started to realize that, okay, I'm not in charge here, because there is nothing more that I can do. And so even when it comes to that being an identity, I say this with so much love, that's still a choice. I say it with, it's still a choice. Much like you can meet somebody, you can meet somebody who has all the money in the world and is the most unhappy person you've ever met. And you can meet somebody who's making minimum wage and absolutely loves life. Like, it's still a choice in how we see it. So not the same example, but I just wanted to give it from that
Mm.
lens.
Thank you for that. Yes. I know for me, I know that this was part of my journey, and my son had his journey. And I
Mhm.
do believe, and this is my personal choice, that my kids chose me for a reason. And I feel blessed that I was able to share that with my son before he passed. And yeah, and I'm here for a reason. This is my journey, my purpose, because of my son.
Mhm.
He lived his purpose. Lost too soon. But yes, thank you for that. Very powerful.
I appreciate you saying that, Sandra, and I think that that's a conversation I've had in my own head, is that I don't know exactly what his purpose is. He gets to decide that.
Mhm.
This might be it. I don't know. I don't know. And that's a hard, being a mom in that point, that's a really hard place to be. Yet it's the only thing I can do right now to navigate it. It's like I do believe we are each walking a path, and I often come back to, like, I wouldn't be doing any of the work I do today if this didn't happen. And I know I'm doing what I'm supposed to be doing. So apparently this was what we signed up for.
I so feel you guys on that
Yeah.
too. I mean, I recognize the time where I really came to that surrender moment as well, where it was like the surrender of control, this illusion of control that I had over all of it, and that I was the one that was gonna, I had to be the one to figure it out. And after, same thing, checkbox, going through every option, every opportunity we could find, and still nothing was working. And being able to kind of lay that down
Hmm.
and then have to sit with, what does it mean? Maybe I'm not the one. Maybe I'm in the way of
Yeah.
the healing or the recovery or the whatever that has to happen, and the whatever being him no longer being here. Like, I don't know what that looks like, and I had to completely surrender to that It's not an easy thing. And I still kind of go back and forth into the control of trying to like manipulate or like get something to happen because you're just afraid. And then again, coming back to that, okay, what is in my control, what is not? And maybe what I'm doing isn't the right thing for him. Only he knows, only they know. And as long as I think I know what's best for them, I am preventing, I'm like prolonging what needs to happen for whatever is going to happen.
Everything you just said, I can completely, that comes that turning point where it's like, what is mine? What can I control? And I think that, I did have a counselor say to me once that you need to be a springboard if they choose to come back so that you can, be a source of support for them. And right now, you're not a springboard. You're kind of a pile of sand. And it was just, I know that sounds really cold, but that's me and my personality. And that was the moment where I went, I could barely support myself, let alone anyone else. That was the start of an idea that I had to find a way to take care of me.
Thank you.
Oh,
Yeah.
Really, yeah, I'm sitting with that control, and how that bleeds into every area of our life. And it's really helpful to think about how people are navigating that in mental health and addiction, and just in other ways in which they could be loving themselves, because that you circled back to that, and that is the foundation. And I really like that metaphor, actually, the springboard, or the
that I use it all the time. I love that one. And that is a huge piece of it. And when you do take care of yourself, you are modeling what it looks like to do so. And so as opposed to saying, you need to do this, and you need to do this, it's like you're modeling what is important and how to do it. And a lot of times they can learn by watching versus you telling them. But one of the things when you talk about control that's really challenging, I have a lot of friends who are in the States, for example, and they're like, why don't you just force them into a program? And I'm like, it doesn't work like that here. And they're like, well, they're minors. Of course it does. I'm like, no, it doesn't. Like I learned a lot about the systems, a lot about policing, courts, systems, how it worked. And as my husband's always said it, he said it so well, is especially when you're dealing with this with minors, it's still kind of the same, but with minors specifically, like they have all the rights, but no responsibilities, and you have all the responsibilities and no rights. And so unfortunately, it's a perfect storm because it's like, I can't make anything happen and they don't have to be responsible for anything. Like that is not, I think our system is very broken personally. I don't think that helps at all to create change. So that's another piece of it.
That's a whole rabbit
yeah,
hole.
that's huge.
We have a couple hours.
We'll
I
have
could
you
tell
back
you
another
stories.
time
All
to
right,
go
what's
into
our
that
next
rabbit
date?
hole.
Okay. Okay. I didn't know if I was going to go there, but it just
No,
came
I
out.
know.
I was like, oh, okay. I
That's
had
a
to
whole
say it.
nother podcast.
All right. All right.
We have
We have a lot of
we have a
conversations about that, because
Do you?
Oh
yeah, and that's why we focus. We like to shift focus, not because it's not important,
Mhm.
and not because it does require change. It's to keep each other sane, to keep us all sane. It's like we do have the power. We do have to remember that as people, that our government and our systems work for us. And every time we forget that and just step back and let them have more of the control, we forget that we actually do have the power. And it's not as simple as that, right? As anybody has
No.
navigated the system. And so we focus more on what can we do, going back to responsibility, which is
100%.
a tenet of like who you are and the work that you do, and community. And so what can I do? And then what can we do when we join together? And so that's what we're here for. We're here to share stories and offer solutions. And you're offering a lot. You're a really, really strong, wise woman that really comes across very, very clearly in how you speak. And so it's what a gift to every listener and to ourselves to have you on today, and just sharing that, even just your presence. So I love to
Thank
focus
you.
more on family. You're welcome. So my question for you is, when addiction enters a family, as it has yours, it's never just about one person, as we previously discussed, right? It exposes patterns and silence and what's been carried possibly for generations. So from your own experience and the work that you now do also, because it plays nicely into this, what has this journey shown you about the patterns you inherited and then the legacy you're choosing to stand for now?
Fantastic question. Well, I can say I was a child, grew up in the 70s, and I mean, I think that there were many patterns of addiction in my childhood onward, and it was very normalized. And so when I started to see this immediately, my kids were like 12 when this first came in. So this was quite young. And I just remember feeling like there's no way I'm doing this again. Like this is not happening. So it stirred up. I understand now that was some very deep subconscious like memories and beliefs that it was stirring up. And one of our very first counseling appointments, I remember vividly the counselor when I got my husband to come first time, and the counselor said, "Just a minute. We're about 2 minutes in." He goes, "You've experienced addiction." He pointed to me, and I said, "Yes." And he looked at my husband. And he goes, "And you have not?" And he said, "No." He goes, "Okay, so let's just be very clear from the beginning. You will never understand her point of view, and you will never understand his point of view. You have to find a way to come together and not have to understand each because you have very different upbringings." And it was almost this permission piece. I think that was a piece of like, okay, a permission that we have different viewpoints. And in NLP, and neuro-linguistic programming is one of the big things that I teach. We talk a lot about internal representation. Internal representation is how we see the world. And that if people could spend more time understanding how they see the world themselves versus trying to make you see it a different way, we could create a lot of change. And that was a big piece of it too, is that, okay, so how can we communicate better? I don't need to make you see it. How can we communicate better? So I don't know if that answers your question, but that was a big piece of understanding that how it was affecting me was different than him. And it has taken tremendous work and communication on our part. And some of the group programs that we've gone to, we've had people say to us, like, how are you two still together? Like, I don't understand because it's not common. It's not common when you're dealing with this. And the one thing we continuously keep saying is that it's our responsibility to make ourselves as whole as possible so that we can bring two wholes together. You can't take two broken and make them come together and try and make this work because it doesn't work. And so we really have been in a space of trying to prioritize taking care of ourselves. We have wall kicking moments. We have challenging moments. I'm not even going to pretend that doesn't happen. But those are some of the things that are really important to navigate this and be able to communicate it. But that for me, this really stirred up a lot. And that has been something that I say it. I've spent my life surrounded by addiction on all sides. And it's something I have really experienced. And it's not judging it. I just don't choose to be around it as much as possible. So, a couple of years ago, I don't even drink very much, but a couple of years ago, we had a big family thing happen. And I was just like, I'm so done. I'm not interested. And I haven't had anything to drink since then. And it's because I don't want to. And that's enough, right? That's enough. I recognize it's been a pattern my entire life. And it's like I still choose how I want to leave myself in it. And that's enough for me.
What a
Oh,
beautiful
beautifully
legacy.
said. You've
Yeah.
given me goosebumps.
Yeah.
That communication part with your husband,
Mhm.
that really struck me. What an amazing therapist to
We were
begin
very
with.
fortunate.
Yeah, what to just to start off like that, and kudos, hats off. I mean, jumping up and down, celebrating you and your husband, honestly, for making that choice to lean into each other, to choose each other every day through this, and to choose yourselves. And to what a beautiful legacy, because that's the question. What are you leaving? Wow. Choosing yourself, choosing love, choosing commitment, choosing communication, choosing to understand, like, and then being the example of that to yourself, to each other, and to your children, and now to the world. Like, that's a beautiful legacy. Yeah. Thank you
Very
so much
grateful
for
for it.
sharing that with us.
Yeah, and just yeah, I just want to say, as you know, a wife of two former partners that were impacted by mental health and addictions, and then having a child in addiction, the impact that it has on relationships, like husband, wife, partners, it is so challenging. And to have both of you choosing to stay committed to doing your own work
Mhm.
and working on the relationship at the same time and have all the other things going on and have your careers and it is
Yeah.
like
Mm.
anybody that's listening that is in this living it right now, it's like it is possible, right? This is what this show is about too, and these conversations is about what is possible. And there's also experiences for myself, like where I decided to choose to change for myself and start taking responsibility and setting boundaries and saying no. And are you
Mhm.
coming with me? And the answer was no. Like if you can't make somebody change, and there are times where the energy that you're no longer connecting on the same level and relationships come to an end. But to just celebrate you, like Lainey said, and to acknowledge the strength, the courage, the openness, the love for
Mhm.
each of you, loving on yourself, but also loving each other. And at the center of it is love. And we've said it multiple times. I've heard it so many times tonight is we're all, for me, addiction was the catalyst. I mean, the why am I married to another person struggling with addiction? Why is my, like, what? It was like, this was my awakening. This was the catalyst. This was the gift. This was the gift
Well,
that came through a lot of really challenging, awful experiences that I'm actually grateful for, because it wouldn't have brought me to where I am and sitting here talking to you and being able to share these stories to impact other people, to show them what is possible.
I appreciate you saying that. And I always like strive to be real. I do want to say like that's us today. And that's
Oh,
us so, like in all like just for I do want people like there were many times where it was like, okay, I'm going this way. I'm not sure what you're doing, and I'm not in charge of what you're doing, but I'm gonna go this way.
Yep.
And I was going a different direction. There's no question. I was going, and it was like you're either gonna come with me or you're not. But if I'm gonna do it on my own, I'm gonna find a way. I will find a way because I don't choose to live in this. There's no world I would sign up to live in this. There's just not here.
Yep.
And so we did do it not great for a long time. I do want to say that it was very
mm,
hard. You know, it affected jobs. We lost jobs. We lost like we had like we just like money that it the impact that it had on us, it had to be really bad in order to for change to happen.
Yeah.
So I don't want it to come across that, you know, we started counseling and it just worked and it was so much work. And that same counselor, I know you mentioned it, Luke, my counselor at one point, I think they dropped like a water bottle or something and I jumped off the chair. And I
oh,
remember him looking at me and he goes, "Why did you do that?" And I said, "Well, it was loud." And he said, "No, there's a whole room full of people. No one else jumped." And I'm like, "What's that mean?" Like, and he goes, "That's PTSD." And I'm like, "I don't PTSD. There's no," he goes, "You absolutely have PTSD." And I didn't understand that either. So that has taken me a number of years of personal work and nervous system work and subconscious work to be able to release a lot of that stress that was there. So again, it was just today is a product of like the last probably 10 to 12 years of consistent work. It doesn't mean it takes 12 years. It's consistent choices day in and day out that create the change.
wow.
I
Yeah, like Marsha, thanks for sharing that with us. I had a question for you, and throughout this whole podcast, it's completely changed. I'm not going with the one that I shot in our group chat. Because there's so much. I like look at everybody here, like, you, Jen, Sandra, Lainey's like, I have a sister, um, that loves me dearly. And, she had to set up boundaries for me before I got sober. But I'm just thinking about the chaos when I was deep in my addiction. Like, you said something about you and your husband there about people dealing with addiction and the different views. And I was thinking about this, how my dad, if I would be off on a binge or whatever, he'd be worried, but like he would still go to bed. He had work the next day.
Mhm.
And then
Mhm.
my mom would sneak out of the house without him hearing her and drive around to all the places in Brampton that she thought she might find me. And then she couldn't find me and she'd head home and then be up all night. And when you mentioned that, I started like thinking to myself, like, oh yeah, like I never have heard my dad talk about like addiction in his family life, but I have heard on my mom's side there's some stuff, right? And I this is the first time I'm hearing this, and this is like clicking in right now. I'm like, okay, I gotta make a therapy appointment after this episode. But as you're explaining that, and then telling us how okay, it wasn't we went to one counseling session, and like you gave us that road to that journey. And I guess my question is, with the PTSD and with families is like, what would you tell a family member who their child now is in recovery,
Mhm.
but thinks because their child's in recovery, everything's okay?
I love this question.
Oh,
Everything's okay because as long as he or she is on their recovery journey, doing their recovery, everything's fine. Life's fine right now, and not realizing they might still have a lot of that trauma and their own PTSD. And it might even start pouring out into other areas of their life, even though their child's in recovery and doing well. I don't
so
know
is
how it's
oof.
this question that it's been on my heart listening to this podcast, guys.
So what would I tell a parent whose child is in recovery?
Hmm.
Yeah, is and because they're in recovery, they think everything is okay.
Mm.
Again, internal representation, how we see the world. We like two people can live in the exact same family situation, dynamics, everything, and still see the world totally differently, right? Like there's the story of the two brothers who grew up in like massive addiction, abusive. It was a horrible situation. One brother became a lawyer, one went to jail, and when they asked him like why did you become what you became, and their answers were, you saw what I grew up in. And I say that only because we see the world through our own lens. I can't change that. And I think that from our perspective of being in it so long, this is our life. I even if recovery comes, which we haven't got there yet, if it does, I think that this is a lifelong battle. I think this is I do, and it's such a dance. I'm gonna and I don't really have a great answer, a perfect answer for this one, but what I can say is it's such a dance from a parent's perspective because you want to be hopeful, detached, positive, realistic, not like all the eggs in one basket, not shameful, like shaming, and that doesn't help either. I think that has to be, again, coming back to how can I take care of myself so that whatever happens, I can best support myself. Do I pour belief in to him? I would pour belief into my family who was walking through this. And if I use you for an example, Luke, like if I pour belief into you nonstop, if you were my son and pour belief into you nonstop, that's great. It makes me feel better that I'm helping and I'm doing something positive. If your internal representation is that I don't believe anything that she's saying, now my words are coming across to you almost as shame, as like, why would she say that? That's not true. I don't believe that at all about myself. And that's a disconnect. And that is actually like a place where we have to be able to hold all of those energies. And how can we, believe in you and it's still your own journey, support you, not carry it, right? Encourage you, but stay detached. I think it all has to live at once. But I really do believe, and I've interviewed hundreds of people who have dealt
Mhm.
with addiction, I think you're always in recovery.
Yes.
And that doesn't mean any less than. It doesn't mean, I think it's always a part of you. Just like any addictive behavior or tendency that I have is part of me.
Yes. Yeah. And I wear that to my core with me. I know I'm either gonna go into a grave sober and in recovery, or I'm gonna go in drinking and doing drugs. I When I see you guys on this video and
Hmm.
watch the work that you guys are trying to do, and it's not perfect, I guess I just wish it for certain loved ones in my family, the way they wished it for me.
So you can hear how like what they want is the same thing that you want.
The same thing that I want, and I
But
know I
it's
can't
like
do
the
anything to control that.
puzzle pieces aren't quite connecting. You both want the same thing, but they're
Mm,
not connecting.
mm,
And that there is a prime example that you still, no matter what, even with the best intentions, you cannot fix, manage, control anyone else. You just can't. And so we can just be our best version of ourselves.
yeah,
Yeah. I can I ask you a question?
sure.
Okay. So what is something you tell yourself every day that keeps you on the path that you're on, that you continue to be on?
That I love myself and I'm capable of all the possibilities that are in my life.
This is beautiful. That is beautiful. I'm working with a coach right now who is works in addiction counseling. And he said something to me almost exactly as you're saying. He goes, everybody thinks that a person has to hit rock bottom in order to, I wish that whole language would change, but they
Mhm.
have to hit rock bottom in order to create change. He said that's not it at all. He goes, what it's going to require is and he used my son, for example, he has to come to a point where he believes he is worthy of more than what he has now.
Mm,
And if I were to come in the situation and pour so much love in, like almost overboard,
mm,
it would actually not help because he's not willing. I'm not saying him specifically, but in a space to receive it. And so I just thought that was like, thank you for sharing that because that's the one thing he said to me is that it really does come down to you create change when you believe that you deserve a different life. That's
Mhm.
you have to love yourself and have the worth enough to know that you deserve more. And that's the same for everyone else in your life.
mm.
It's no different. They
Well,
have to believe that they are willing or that they deserve, like that they deserve more and happiness and all those things, and still can't control what happens.
thank you for that.
That's
You're
Yeah,
welcome.
Marsha.
the feeling
You're welcome.
worthy of it, of a good
Mhm.
life, feeling
Yeah.
worthy. Yeah.
I mean, honestly, that one took me a long time to get myself. Honestly, it did. I felt like I go back to the contract. I thought I had failed. I
Mhm.
mean, how can I stand up and share my story because I thought I had failed. And even now, like most people think you can't share a story until it's over and it's fixed and done. And it's like, well, I wouldn't have even started then. And so I don't subscribe to that. I do have a motto that I use for sharing stories, and it's something that I do help others with if I can share it, if that helps.
Yeah.
Mhm.
I think that there's a difference between in your story and on your story. I've used this for years. When you're
Mm,
you can physically be in your story. We're still in our story.
mhm.
You can be in your story, but if you speak from the lens that you're in the story, you're angry, you're resentful, you're hurtful, there's shame, that is not the time to share the story. If you share a story from that lens, you will only attract more of that back in, which is why I left the Facebook group with love because I knew that wasn't gonna help me on the story is when you have some perspective. And so
Mm,
you're able to speak and have like the lens of perspective that you're learning something. There's lessons there that we're learning. I don't subscribe to this happens for you. I don't like that language. I think it's actually quite toxic personally. I do think everything is teaching us something. And so I like to ask myself, like, what am I here to learn? What is this teaching me?
Mm.
Not this is happening for me. Because like
mm,
nobody signs up for this. This is not a for you situation. but it is teaching us something and we're learning. So that's the difference between in the story and on the story. And I know when I was in a space of wanting to write my book and somebody said, you can't do that while you're in the middle of the story. There's the difference between the wound and a scar. And the other thing with that, we've all heard that saying, you can only share from the wounds. Well, I can tell you from this work that I've worked with a lot of adults who have a wound or a scar that's covered over with a really nasty wound underneath that they've never even dealt with. So that's not it either. To me, from my perspective and my experience, in the story versus on the story. If I'm super angry, resentful, frustrated, that is not the time I pick up my phone and share in my social media because it
Mm,
just does not serve a purpose. But if I can have perspective and I can share something from a lens that can help somebody, I call that on the story. That is when I show up differently. Does that help?
yes,
Okay.
I like that.
It's my own distinction, and I'm always checking in because even when I share something, that's not live time. Like it's probably already happened over the last week, and I'm just figuring things out, right? It's not like in the moment.
I think this circles like I'm just listening to like the conversation too, and I mean, so much has been said, but I mean, this whole concept, what I'm picking up on is it stems for every person impacted by addiction.
Mhm.
It's
Yeah.
this illusion that everything's just going to be okay when
Mhm.
there's sobriety. And whether you're wherever you are on this journey, whether you're a parent, whether you're the individual struggling with addiction, if you're a sibling, it doesn't matter. We're all
Mhm.
on this journey. And when we can drop the illusion that it's just going to be fine,
Mhm.
this like moment in time where, oh, and I used to believe this. I used to like
Mhm.
live for this. I used to literally like just go to treatment, just go to detox. Everything's going to be fine if.
Mhm.
My reality now, right now, is in my son has been in recovery and in sobriety and for almost a year, and we're in a point right now too where it's like there's uncertainty again, and but I've learned this a long time now where it's like there is no quick fix, and
Mhm.
I find peace in knowing there is no quick fix.
Mhm.
And whether it be my journey, like I'm not perfect, I'm still moving through it. I'm like sometimes 5 steps forward, 3 steps back. Like it's this dance, it's this wave, it's this flow of continuing to forget and then remember. Forget some of
Mhm.
the things that I've learned and then have to remember what I'm here to do and how I'm here to move and navigate. And you talked about it, Luke talked about it, like, and this was my question, was around the duality in which we have to live. I mean, you are on this healing journey, as am I, as all we all are. You're
Mhm.
building a heart-wired business. You're building a business that is you're having so much impact and growing, and you're holding the uncertainty, the fears, the darkness, but you're also allowing yourself, you're giving yourself permission to step into the light, to navigate with hope and the possibilities that are available to you. And how do you help families to understand that that's available to them too? Because I know for me, like I just thought I had to be suffering. Like my child is not well, they're hurting. How can I possibly have my own dreams or my own desires or have expansion and joy and love? And I love that you again, how do you do it? What would you say to a listener? Because I just would love to hear your answer on this.
Hmm. Sometimes it's really messy. I'm just gonna sometimes it's really messy. It is a duality and both can exist. Both
Yes.
can exist at the same time. They at the exact same time. And sometimes the dance is so interesting. I actually will kind of step back and watch and I'm like, wow, I can't if I mean people might see the success over here, but then they're not seeing what's absolutely blowing up over here because I'm not sharing that part. I try and always be honest and say, like, if you could see some of the personal stuff that's happening over here, it's nuts. It's absolutely crazy that both are happening at the same time. And I think that as we learn to like regulate our own nervous system, understand how we're feeling, like, I mean, I didn't learn how to even feel feelings until my fifth decade. I'm going to be totally real. I was of the generation of like, you suck it up, you put your head down, you don't even like crying felt weak. I didn't understand any of that. And it's taken me a long time to actually like honor who I am. So the strengths that I had to get to here, they only took me so far. And then I had to learn other parts of it as well. So I can see duality in myself. And I think that's where it really starts from. This fighter, driver, like put your head down, armor up person. I mean, she got me a long ways. Like she served a really good purpose and she helped me through. So I think one of the first things I would say is no matter what your journey, please don't resent the parts of you that got you to where you are. I can't, so many women, I say women first, women and men be like, I mean, like, I just did it wrong. I'm like, no, you did it the best you could with the information that you had. Now you know something different. And so I actually look back on those parts of myself. That's our subconscious. That's our 95% of who we are. Like she's showing up nonstop because that's who I am. And so, how can I learn the other side? So, the duality is very interesting. Um, I slow down, I feel it, I experience it. I mean, this last 2 years have been incredible growth in my own business, the number of people that we get to work with, what that experience is like. And it's been by far some of the hardest days that we have ever experienced. And sometimes I'm just like, wow, far out, what are you doing? Like today? You want me to do this today? Well, I'm like, okay. And it's just this, I think, I mean, I don't know how to say it. It sounds really cold. It's not, I bring a light sense of humor that sometimes life just I don't get it at all, but it's where we are and it's what we're living in. And I believe that both are teaching me a lot and they are teaching me the more you start to understand that both can happen at the same time. Support yourself, see what those blocks are, your own in your own belief system, work on your nervous system. You can actually hold more. You can hold more. Not it's not perfectly, but you hold it more in a steady way. I'm kind of been writing about this new concept, this for me, where it's like we set this ceiling, and that's like a biggest thought we can have ourselves, like all the things that we want to go after and create. And then our floor is our deepest belief about ourselves. And our life is in between. So our life is like this beautiful dance between what do we believe is possible, what are we thinking for ourselves, and what are we creating? And it's a ball, it's always moving. So I think that we sometimes have to be mindful that we don't think that like when I get this, it's all going to be better. When they go into treatment, I'm like, no, that's just another step. It's just another step. It's not like the step, the end. It's another step. So I see it as a bunch of moving balls as opposed to static things that we hold.
So beautifully said. Thank you. Because I know so many people are struggling with that duality and not understanding that that is actually the human experience. And the
It
more
is.
that we can come to a place of accepting and learning to move with it instead of resisting it, we actually take back our power and we're
Mhm.
able to move through with more grace and ease and sometimes really messy
Oh my gosh.
and like just really, really, really fucking messy, right?
Oh,
Like
I mean,
that's
I
okay
know I
too.
can swear, but yeah, you know, it is. And when I am having moments of like, I am gonna bang my head against a wall right now and scream, those moments I have to give myself permission that like, okay, this is a day I need to like I actually just need to unplug. I have actually had times this last year where I've had very big client things scheduled and I'm like I can't do it right now. I just know you're not going to
Mm,
I can do it
I
because
don't.
the fighter in me can do it.
Yeah.
And I know that you're not going to get the best of me. And it's probably going to set me back by a couple weeks because that's how low my tank is. And
Mhm.
that's when I talk about like ownership and understanding that. So, yes, all the cups are moving, but there have been many times this year where I've been like, I'm tapped out. Like I'm tapped out. I'm going for a nap. I don't bother me. My phone's off. I have to recharge. And that's okay. Like that's okay. If you're listening to this, listen to what you need and keep moving. Like honestly, like I also I've had those low moments where I know there was some pretty serious depression happening and frustration happening. And I know what my non-negotiables are every day that give me a fighting chance. They give me a fighting chance. And they are the most simple things, whether it's water, whether it's my steps to walk and move, time with my dog, like those things fill me so that I can feel better and more equipped to handle what I'm handling. And that helps the duality. But if, again, following the emotions back to what we said in the beginning, if I'm like resentful, frustrated, annoyed, sometimes I have to stop and I'm like, wow, this is not my best. And if this is not my best, what do I need now to help me be more of my best? That's the ownership piece is coming back to what do I need more? Sometimes I might have, that might be, I have to ask for help. I'm like, I just need more help. I can't do it by myself right now. And so it's dancing between those pieces.
Yeah, that was
Well,
honest.
yeah.
That's great because it's so true. It is. Sometimes it's messy, often it's messy. And we go back to what we touched on earlier. You brought up capacity. Your capacity changes, and
Mhm.
that's totally okay. Sometimes you can juggle 10 balls and you're
Yeah.
fine and you're steady in the mess. And
Yes.
sometimes
It
one
can't be
ball
one.
is so heavy that you
Yeah.
can't even take a step.
No.
And that goes to do loving yourself and doing the work on yourself is getting to know yourself.
Mhm.
And when you're just tired because you're just tired because it's the end of the day, and when you're so tired that your soul can't take another moment and you need to lay down and rest, and being able to understand what the difference looks like, what the cues are for you, so that you can, quote unquote, have it all. Like going back to your question, Jen, like
Mm.
how can you do it all? How can you be navigating this tremendous challenge and also living your life and building a future and reaching for your dreams? Like how can you do all those things?
Mhm.
That's how you can. And you answered that. Sometimes sometimes you can and sometimes you can't. And that's just so beautiful that it was so honest like that. Thank you.
Mm. I appreciate that. I do want to add one little thing too, that by doing that, a couple of years ago when I was starting full time in my business, I was attracting a lot of the wrong people in the wrong situations because I
Mm.
wasn't in my best. I was that, and again, I own that. That's me being, when somebody said to me, well, take a look at your client base and what you're doing and the work that you're doing. What is it that you don't love? And I'm like, I actually love everything I'm doing right now. I do. I mean, it's full, but I love what I'm doing. But I also know I'm in a different space than I was 2 years ago.
Mm.
So that helps as it grows. I think that's it. Because I know if it's the wrong people, wrong situation, and I'm not in the right space, then no one's getting the best of me. And I'm probably even subconsciously resentful of the work that I'm doing.
Yeah.
I can relate to that.
Mhm.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Well, I love.
You, yeah, I could see. I mean, I need to talk to you, Luke, because I think
Yeah.
that I think we can have a conversation. But I mean, by even creating what you're doing and how you're helping people, your boundaries and your energy are really important. I would guess that
Mhm.
it's incredibly important with what you're doing.
And trying to navigate it, like you're saying, it is messy. Like
Oh
I've
yeah.
had over the past, probably since the summer, since I really started, especially with the painting as well. There's some times where I've had to check out and turn
Yep.
the phone off, and I'm talking turn it off for a full day, like
Yeah.
not have any connection. Because I also there's a lot of people that will come to me and lean on me for stuff to do with recovery and leadership stuff in my church, and sometimes I don't have the capacity. And thank God I have a couple really good mentors in my life that they will check me on that, and
Amazing.
they'll hear me say yes to something, and they'll be like,
Hmm.
what?
Yes.
And I'm like, oh yeah, okay, yeah, you know what? That's not in my schedule. No, thank God I have some of those people because
Good.
I it's come a long way to stop being a yes man and
Mm-hmm.
I still fumble that ball, and I can still get myself into these places where I'm maxed out, like I'm exhausted. And for me in recovery, if I start getting resentful at things, if I start going down that road,
Mm-hmm.
my first reaction to things all the time is how can I feel better? So
Mm-hmm.
tools that I use today, if I don't take care of myself and I keep overloading myself and I don't set boundaries, maybe the feel better ends up turning into a drink or a drug or sex, porn, whatever it
Yeah.
is, right? Just to get that relief, right? So listening to you guys talk about this and you, Marsha, talk about it, it's like, yeah, like I'm meant to be in this podcast too, because I'm not perfect. I'll share something on a podcast 2 weeks ago and drop the ball on it today. Like it's
Mm-hmm.
I'm human. Like
And that's why we're all here and why we're like
Yeah.
that's why I want to keep making sure like no this is the journey today. There was
yeah.
some really messy years that were not my best self, and
Mhm.
it's where we learn. But I appreciate you sharing that because it is tricky. You can't be everything. Like there are definitely some people that I've had to put some boundaries. Like I can't walk through a really difficult situation in a DM on Instagram when you're dealing like I just that's just not my area and expertise, and it's just trying to be as honest as possible because these are heavy topics. Like this is they're heavy topics. They're a lot to carry, and the only thing we can do is just be our best self so that we can set ourselves up for success.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Amen.
Thank you. This has been great.
It's been amazing. I just feel very full of gratitude to meet you and to listen to your wisdom. And it's just we're so on the same page. I just am blown away. I'm gonna step away from this and just go through everything we talked about, and I'm full of gratitude. Thank you. And one thing I remember is we are on a marathon. It's a marathon. It's not a
Oh,
sprint, and
not
that
Exactly.
sprint.
really slows me down. It's not a sprint.
Mm-mm.
And
No,
we
that's a
need to
beautiful
pace
way to say it.
ourselves.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I love this because again, we're for
Mm.
everybody, wherever you are,
Yes.
whatever part of the journey that you're on, where what we're talking about, the stories that we're sharing, there's no quick fix. There's no overnight magic that's going to happen. And it's never going to be perfect. It's perfectly imperfect. And it's part of our journey just to continue to evolve and to learn and to break free from the patterns that aren't serving us anymore, that did for a while. And wherever you are, I want you to think about what you've already overcome. You have
Hmm.
already overcome so much, and I celebrate you, and I celebrate myself, and I celebrate everybody here, because this isn't about being perfect. It's not about being right. It's about being real. And
Hmm.
Oh,
you know just acknowledging and being grateful. I've been 1,000 different women. I say this all the time. I actually have a meditation. I've been 1,000 different women, and I honor each and every one of those women who got me to be where I am today. And I have still so much growth and so much healing and so much remembering and awakening and excitement in it. And it doesn't always have to be heavy. Even though it is heavy, healing doesn't have to be hard. We can find laughter, we can find humor, we can share stories and laugh about the craziness of it all. And we don't have to do it alone. We're here to heal, rise, and recover together. And just because you can doesn't mean you have to. And boundaries are
Hmm.
there to protect you. And I really do believe recovery begins when we believe that we are worthy of being saved. So, Marsha, thank you so much for joining us today. It has been such a pleasure and an honor to have you. Is there any final messages, thoughts, words, something that you'd like to leave with our listeners?
I want to say first off, thank you to each of you for having me. And I had this glimpse moment of, 10 years ago, I was praying for these kinds of conversations. I couldn't find them anywhere.
Mm,
And to see so many people come together from different lens, from different like viewpoints, different experience. I mean, you're opening up the conversation so that it can reach more people. And if other people decide that this is something that they want to learn and be more a part of it, then great, you've opened up a door. Again, you're opening up a door. It doesn't mean that you can make people walk through it. But by having these conversations like this just didn't exist 10 years ago. And so I at all, like it was like this conversation had so much shame around it that it wasn't happening. So, I mean, I'm grateful to be part of it, and I'm proud of all of you for doing it, because, shame can't survive when you talk, when you add a voice, and it's gone. So I often say shame is my slippery slope. The second I feel it, I'm like, oh wait, where can I add a voice to that? Because you're not taking me. That will not take me out. That's not going to be it. It's not going to be shame. And so I'm here for these kinds of conversations, these real conversations, because somebody said to me when I was writing my book, I right before it was publishing, like within a month, David Chilton reached out to me, and I'd met David Chilton from The Wealthy Barber before briefly, and he reached out and he's like, you have to change your cover. And I'm like, the book's going to publish in a month. We can't change it. He goes, you have to trust me. I need your face on it. And I was like, I'm not putting my face in the cover. That's insane. And it was just like, and it is. It's the whole face. And the reason I'm saying that is because that's my reminder, right? Like the shame doesn't exist because I'm putting it out there. That's what you're doing. Like if you continue to do that, you will change the landscape for so many people. And that's just the kinds of conversation I was always praying to happen. So I'm grateful to be here, and I'm proud of you guys for what you're doing.
Thank you so
Thank
much.
you, Marsha. Where can people find you? And where can they buy your books?
Well, you can buy any of my books on Amazon, and my website, social media, everything, because you might see how long my last name is Van W. Everything is Marsha Van W. So all Instagram, all like social media. My website is that, and then my podcast is called Own Your Choices, Own Your Life, and we're like into, I think episode 960 something is recorded right now. I know. Again, right? When I was releasing my book, I had this moment of, I think I still have to normalize stories. 2017, I'm going to start a podcast. So already my family's like, you want to write a book and a podcast? Like, what are you doing? And I'm like, I don't know. I think I'm supposed to do it. And I didn't have a clue what I was doing. I literally talked into my phone. It was messy. I'm so grateful for that, like 2017 version of me that just didn't give a shit. She was like, I just got to do it. I don't care. And that is, I actually tap into her energy often. I really do. I'm like the version of me in 2017 who didn't think twice about any of this. How do I tap into her again? So you can find me through the podcast. That's been a piece of my business that I keep going. We do 3 episodes a week, 2 solos, 1 interview. We probably get pitched 20 times a week for being a guest on the show. And I just love that I get to normalize talking about difficult stories, because there's a wealth of people who have overcome stories you never would have imagined. And my last question is always like, what lesson in life are you most grateful for? And almost every single person says the story that I lived, because it shaped me into who I am. So, if you're listening to this and you're feeling like, I don't have any options, go find the stories, go find the rooms, go find the podcasts, go find the books, because it will allow you to borrow a little bit of belief when you're in those moments.
Beautifully said.
Wow.
Thank you.
Beautiful.
Thank you for having me.
Well, we hope that you will come back, because we'd love to continue these powerful
Absolutely.
conversations.
I'm here.
Amazing. Well, thank you so much. And until next time, remember, you are not alone. We heal, we rise, and we recover better together. Bye for now.
Thank you.
Bye, everybody.
Thank you for being part of Real Lives Touched by Addiction podcast. If this episode moved something within you, please subscribe and leave a rating or review. It helps these conversations reach the hearts that need them most. We're also inviting you to connect with us. Our social links are in the show notes. Follow us, come say hi, and share your story. We truly want to hear from you, because your story carries wisdom, your voice carries medicine, and your purpose is already unfolding. Until next time, remember, You are not alone. We heal, rise, and recover better together.